Today at Manchester Theatres, I am very, very pleased to be joined by the fabulous Chris Jack, who is going to be performing in the Pulitzer Prize-winning drama Sweat. It is coming to the Royal Exchange from the 26th of May, and I do believe we are going to be in for a treat. Now, Chris is someone you may have seen in shows such as Emmerdale, Hollyoaks, Coronation Street, or Creeped Out. On stage, you may have seen him more recently in the tour of Noughts and Crosses, or in shows such as The Last Quiz on Earth, Beryl, Brighton Rock. You may even have heard him on BBC Radio 4, where he does lots and lots of different plays. But today we are here to talk all about the play Sweat. So thank you so much for joining us, Chris. I know you're in the middle of rehearsals, so we do appreciate it.
No problem at all. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So this play, we know it's not just any play, it's a Pulitzer Prize winning play.
It is.
So tell us all about the story. What's it all about?
It's a fantastic play. It's essentially about it's set in Reading in Pennsylvania, and it's about workers at a factory. And unfortunately, a lot of the workers there have been laid off through different reasons, and essentially it follows the story of Cynthia and Tracey. One gets promoted, another one sort of struggles a little bit, and it's also about how people come back from not being laid off from work, and the sort of problems that they have individually and as a community.
Yeah, and with it being a Pulitzer Prize winning drama, from all of you involved, from cast, creative, everybody, does that kind of add an extra something, like whether that be pressure or excitement or somewhere in the middle of that?
I think it's a bit of everything, really, because yes, there's a certain amount of pressure with it, but to be honest, I think it's once the first time that I read the play, it absolutely sung to me. So all we want to do as actors is do it justice. You know, we just want to go out there, have fun, but also be truthful to the characters in the story. And with it being a Pulitzer Prize winning play, you just want to do the very, very best you possibly can, you know.
Yeah, and speaking of the characters, so you play someone called Brucie. So tell us all about him and how he fits into the story of these two other people that you've mentioned.
Sure. So Brucie, I think Brucie goes on quite a journey. I don't want to give too much away, but Brucie goes on quite a journey. And he's one of the union he works in the factory. He's one of the quite high up in the union, one of the union reps. And he goes on quite a journey because he gets laid off from work, and essentially it's about the relationship that he has with his son Chris and Cynthia, and he does go on a bit of a spiral. So again, not wanting to give too much away, but I think he is he's a brilliant character in that he's extremely truthful, doesn't always get it right, but he's open. And he does go on a bit of a journey. So I absolutely love playing Brucie.
Yeah, I mean, who does get it right at the end of the day?
Exactly.
None of us. And what's so relatable about this play? It's set in this town, like you say, in mid America, working class, but it kind of could be here. Like right now with the economics and the strikes and all of these things, it's really relatable, isn't it?
It absolutely is. I mean, it's set in sort of 2000, and we do jump from 2000 2008. But I think the fact that it covers so many issues that are so relatable today. So I mean, you do have the class, as you mentioned there, the working class, and then you have race, you have the economics of it all, and also you have the relationships between family and friends, and I think it's a melting pot, because if you took away the fact that it was setting Reading and in Pennsylvania, and you plonked it in Manchester or Nottingham or Birmingham, I think it would sing in exactly the same way. It really is. What you've got is real characters talking about real issues and experience in life as we all know it. And I just think I do urge people to really come to see it, purely because of that same reason. And if you're anything like me, when from when I first read it, I just think people will just kind of go, yes, I completely get that. There'll be at least three characters, I would say, where you just think, I know that person, you know.
Wow. Yeah. And this is why it wins the prizes.
Absolutely.
But it also, but you've mentioned some of the themes that it touches there: prejudice, economy, and
Mhm.
friendship, loyalty. But from my understanding of it,
Mhm.
it pushes the boundaries of friendship and loyalty to how far can that go before self-preservation has to kick in?
Yes.
And it raises really interesting questions, doesn't it, about your relationships and, well, yes, I'm loyal to this person, but I've got to look after myself as well.
Yes, it does, and I think that's one of the things that you do find with Brucie. He starts off again, not wanting to give too much away, but he does start off thinking one thing, and then through his journey, throughout the progression of the play, his mind starts to sway towards something else, and it's also about masculinity as well. That's sort of thrown in there, and where if you do lose your job, where do you stand, a as a person, but also within the community, and how do you provide for your family, and how do you think other people will see you
Yeah.
once you've also lost yourself, and I think that's something again that other people will absolutely be able to relate to, especially in the current climate.
Yeah, and I think it's really important in giving people who potentially feel isolated or invisible a voice, because I mean these people didn't even get the option of striking, did they? They were locked out of the factory, so they couldn't even kind of voice what they wanted to change, and so it's kind of giving that voice to the people who might not otherwise have one, I suppose.
Yes, you're right. I mean, Bruce is a union leader, so they do go on this sort of pick and they do try to have a voice, but I think it's sort of almost falling on deaf ears, and I think that in itself is what leads to that frustration, because you have so much to say and yet nobody is listening.
Yeah.
And so what does that do? What does that say? And I think that's where you find a lot of people within the play, because there's also, it's set around a bar, a pub. So it's a place where people do sort of voice those concerns, and people do have a laugh and a giggle, but also, like everyone does, if they go to the pub, people talk about all kinds of things, and that's where you see real people, being themselves. And I think that's where you hear a lot of the voices within the play.
And I think probably one of the reasons I saw an interview with the writer Lynn Nottage, and I saw and it was so fascinating. She said the whole thing kind of sparked when a friend who she thought was okay emailed her to say actually how much she was struggling
Hmm.
financially and economically, and it kind of sparked this idea to what she thought would maybe be a couple of weeks of research, and it turned into years and years because she interviewed the heck out of everybody from
Yeah.
every angle. And I think that level just gives it such authenticity, doesn't it? Like you say, these are real people.
It really does, and again, that comes back to what you're saying then, in terms of what people pick out from the story, because finance is such a huge issue for a lot of people, and, or should I say, lack of finances. And what that does is it prompts discussion, but also when you see people going through a lot of struggles, that there'll be people come and see the play who will absolutely be able to identify and to relate to that. I do think you do hear and you do see the level of detail that Lynn has put into the script, and it also reminds me of my granddad as well, because my granddad was a miner in Nottingham, the Nottingham colliery, and there's so many levels that you find within the play where you just think, right, the strikes. And I remember my granddad talking about the strikes from the 80s. And then you've got people who want to go to work. And that's the key thing. A lot of people want to work, but that they don't always have the opportunity to go to work, or they can't go to work because other people are working there now, for cheaper labor, and that adds to frustration. And so there's so many things, whether you agree or disagree, there's so many talking points within this play. I honestly urge people to come and see it just for that same reason,
Yeah.
because it's a lot of things that a lot of people are already talking about.
Yeah. And with it being in the Royal Exchange as well, we've got the theatre in the round, this glorious theatre. Do you think that's really going to pull us in even more? Because you're in it, aren't you, at the Royal Exchange? You're just right there in the story yourself.
You practically sat in the pub. That's what you're doing. Yes, it is. It's a beautiful theatre, absolutely stunning theatre, and I think that's what also gives you, because it's in the round. You do get so many different elements. One scene, you can you take so many different things away depending on where you're sat. And I think that's where. Personally, I think that's where it has the advantage over end on, because you're always given one perspective, whereas in the rounds you can see so much more, and you just see so much more little details going on within the scene. So, yes, it's a beautiful, it's a personal favourite of mine, I do have to say.
Well, I was going to say, so what does it mean to you bringing it here? Because you studied in Salford, you live in Manchester, you've worked so much here. I mean, and so to be able to bring this play here to this amazing theatre, I mean, what does that mean to you personally?
It's I don't want to say it's a homecoming, but for me, it's just that thing of, it's so much pride within myself, because I do remember many years ago when I used to study at Salford Uni. There's the amount of times that we walk past the Royal Exchange, kind of looking up, going, one day, I would love to work there one day. And so to work there for the first time was one thing, but I think I've been lucky enough to come here several times, and every single time, I don't take it for granted whatsoever. It is honestly like a gift in itself, just working here in the building. So I think that's also what gives you that extra oomph to want to do your best, because I still have that same feeling like I had in the 90s, when I used to walk past the theatre. So you just want to give it your all.
Yeah, it is. It's glorious, and it is going to be a brilliant play to put in there. Thank you so much for chatting with us today, Chris. We really appreciate it. We will be coming along for sure to watch. You can catch Sweat at the Royal Exchange, so grab your tickets, because as Chris has been saying, I do think this is going to be one that people are flocking to go and watch. So get them while you still can. Thank you so much, and all the best for the rest of your rehearsals and the show. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
It's a reflex. I just do it. Get to the door, same as usual. I smell the oil and metal dust. I hear the machinery churning and feel the energy of the room. It was back when if you worked with your hands, people respected you for it. It was a gift. My body knows it's there to pack tubes. That's what I do. Bottom line, they don't understand that human decency is at the core of everything. I guess I kind of want to do something different from my moms and pops.
Sweat by Lynn Nottage, from the 26th of April to the 25th of May. For tickets, visit royalexchange.co.uk.